The Arizona Cardinals are finishing last in their class as far as the NFLPA team report cards. We've bottomed out. But has it inspired some change for the organization? We'll give you all we have from Indianapolis and what the team has released in a statement, plus some great guests, Johnny Venerable.
Yeah, Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network is going to tell us whether or not these grades will impact free agency. And speaking of free agency and the NFL draft, we've got on-set NFL insider Benjamin Albright. PHNX Cardinals live from the 2025 NFL Combine. It starts now. Hello and welcome in live from the 2025 NFL Combine. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe, leave us a 5-star.
That's aggressive.
Wherever you get your programming, we're going to be aggressive today. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Brack, Damon, Dawg, producer extraordinaire. Of course, behind the mic, we got Shane Diefenbach hanging out. What a banner day today in Indy. It was 2 years ago we sat here, Bo, and we were in the midst of a very hectic combine, talking to players, talking to insiders. And the NFLPA did this thing, this new thing, dropping player grades. And the Cardinals did not grade out well. And it took over all day.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 2 years, including today, we've been prepared for this day, as have Cardinal fans. I tweeted out a photo earlier today, and people are like, oh, man, the grades are coming out today. And man, oh, man, did they ever, Bo. Cardinals, as many of you know by now, dead last in the NFL.
You ever, put in your best efforts as far as, your education goes, you study for that test, and you can't wait to get your paper back.
Yeah.
Or your test back, get the quiz back, get the results, and you bombed it. It was kind of similar, because we were talking about this yesterday. We're like, hey, the grades are going to be released tomorrow, and the Cardinals went from second last to 27th. We like the direction that Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort have this organization going. They're only going to trend up, right? Boy, were we wrong.
Yeah.
Boy, were we wrong, because when we were sitting down there at the NFLPA press conference today, they say the link is live. Go ahead and check out the scores. And I click on the Arizona Cardinals, and I see a big, fat, red 3-2. 32 out of 32 Arizona Cardinals dead last in ranking. Now, we're going to provide as much context as possible as this goes. And we even talked to their chief strategy officer, two-time NFLPA president, JC Tretter. But we're going to get into the fallout of this and what's coming for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, let's pull up the graphic if we could. Damon, Dawg, if you have not seen the breakdown, what goes into the Arizona Cardinals finishing last, 32nd in the NFL, the large majority, like it has been the prior 2 seasons, of the Cardinals' critical errors as it relates to their players. And this is voted on by the players, by the way. The players vote on this. They give the grades themselves. The general consensus is the Arizona Cardinals' treatment of families. You see there, D+, dining and food area, D-, locker room, which is the most egregious, F-, one of only, I think, 2 or 3 F- given out. The players despise the locker room. The training room, D-, the weight room, F, and ownership, Michael Bidwill, a D. 2 last place finishes with their grades, locker room and training room. The players are telling everybody that the Cardinals have the worst locker room, training room combination in the NFL.
Yeah.
And if you've seen it, if you've been in it, a lot of people can attest to that. That has been the common denominator. So, again, you're going to look at these rankings year to year, and when we talk to JC, he sheds more light on it, so I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. But basically, this does not mean the Cardinals haven't improved from last year to this year. What this means is they are too slow as it relates to the rest of the NFL, who are making seismic changes, right? So Michael Bidwill of the Cardinals, they can say, well, we've made changes, and they have. the changes, according to the players, not good enough.
Not good enough. It's not where they want to be. It's not where they want to go, prepare week in and week out for this, marathon NFL season. And this is great about what the NFLPA has done now 3 years running is it creates accountability because it doesn't force the hand of any ownership. But it does put as far as them on trial with the court of public opinion. And, as far as, slow playing it to a fault, Cardinals ownership, Michael Bidwill and crew, they are guilty of taking too much time in order to do this. Now, we'll get into what the fallout was and also what the statement is from the organization here shortly, but I want to continue to look at this as far as the Cardinals in what they were graded poorly on and what it means as far as the D- in ownership. Basically, what they asked the players to grade here as far as ownership, it's not a whole much more than do they have confidence in ownership to do everything that's possible to make this team better. Are they willing to put forth the effort? Do they have the confidence and ownership to do that? And the D- is glaring.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And again, this isn't new information, right? For a lot of people. You cover this team on a daily basis. You're at Tempe regularly.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything to upgrade their facility with regard to noticeable improvements. So I think that's why we were bracing for not a great grade again. They were 27th last year. I think you and I were expecting them to be in the bottom half of the 20s again, right? Maybe they did enough legwork in the other categories, and one of which we're going to talk about here in a second, to bump them up a little bit. When you heard whisperings of some upgrades that are coming down the line, but they hadn't started yet. So I think, honestly, and maybe this is a bad take on my part.
Sure.
I think this is less about the Cardinals and more about everybody else taking maybe these more seriously than the Cardinals are taking. I think these are other franchises looking at this and saying, we're embarrassed by this, we're going to change it, right?
You got to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
Whereas the NFL Joneses.
The Cardinals, up until this point, have not felt a sense of urgency with upgrading their training room and their locker room. The locker room looks the same as it did when these grades came out 2 years ago. Will this be the straw that breaks the camel's back? We'll see, and we're going to talk about the fallout from this, the ramifications potentially. But you can tell the Commanders, with new ownership, took this seriously. They were last 2 years in a row. They're 11th this year, right? Other organizations. And not everybody's perfect, and I get that. But I think the Cardinals and their fan base and their players specifically who voted on this just want to see incremental improvements. And they have not. There are improvements in other areas, and that's great. And I think Ossenfort and Gannon have led the charge on things that they're able to control.
Yeah.
And you've seen that with Jonathan Gannon, by the way, getting an A from his players. But they can't remodel the facility. They can't improve the structure. They can't come in and say, hey, we got to tear this up and we're gonna demo this. That has to come from Michael Bidwill. And I hope that Michael Bidwill has a sense of urgency now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that we're going to get into in depth, even more so on this episode. But we got our guy Benjamin Albright coming over to the table to talk some ball, what he's hearing as far as here in Indianapolis, plus what he's hearing going into the NFL draft, NFL free agency. Let's get into that. Benjamin Albright joins us here next, PHNX Cardinals.
Yeah, we're fired up here at the 2025 NFL Combine. We're fired up back in the Valley with our friends at All Pro Shade Concepts. If you're ever thinking, hey, who gets those nice shades on the outside of your home? What does those cost? How do I get started? How do I up my acumen? Well, check out All Pro Shades Concept. They're excited to help you with a custom fit awning, hundreds of designs, colors to choose from. They've been in the business, friends, for over 20 years in the Valley, and they started making window shades by hand for friends. And then it just took off. People love the quality. They're locally owned and operated in Phoenix. Now they're one of the largest installers of patio shades and motorized awnings in the Valley. There you go. Awesome. They're a locally sourced and shaded company. Again, they were voted #1 rated by Arizona for patio shades in 2024 with a triple BA+ rating with over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. You can Google them, see for yourself. Check them out right now. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Call 623-204-1476 or visit allproshades.com. Again, that's allproshades.com right now to schedule what I think is going to be the best call you make today, your first free estimate, Bo.
Big dinner tonight in Indianapolis. We're going to the premier steakhouse, or the famous steakhouse, St. Elmo's tonight. So can't wait to do that. But I can't wait to get back to the Valley of the Sun and have some Spinatos. Spinatos Pizzeria, of course, your spot, your headquarters to watch Phoenix Suns games. Even though it's tough to watch these days, they're going to make it a little bit more fun because they've got their game of horse that's now Pizza instead of horse. And then they've got options to win tickets to these Phoenix Suns upcoming games. So check out Spinato's Pizzeria right now. It's the place for Suns fans, and great pizza. Me and my family are there once a week. My 3-year-old, he's getting the Kevin McAllister special, just the cheese pizza. We're getting the spicy Italian, me and my wife. We're enjoying it. Great drinks there as well. Come check out Spinato's Pizza. Of course, like I said, the Suns headquarters where you can go play Pizza, get that basketball contest, SpinatosPizzeria.com. Also, more at SpinatosPizzeria.com, the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns.
We're fired up to welcome NFL insider, friend of the program, Benjamin Albright. Benjamin, it was 2 years ago we sat here with you, and we were fired up about Will Anderson Jr., and we just saw it was a foregone conclusion the Cardinals were going to take Will, 3rd overall. And you said, you know what? The Cardinals aren't going to take Will Anderson Jr. And that was 2 months before the draft. You said the Cardinals really want to trade down. And, of course, they did. Now they're picking a little bit different this time around. A couple years under Jonathan Gannon. We haven't had a chance to catch up. Give me your overall assessment of JG and Ossenfort 2 years in.
I think they've done a pretty good job. I mean, this is you had to tear this thing down and build it back up, and I think they've done a pretty good job of what they've had so far. This was always a crawl, walk, run, kind of deal. I get everybody wants instant results. You look at the Washington turnaround, and you want instant results and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, I think they've done a pretty good job of putting the bricks in place as we go along, and you're starting to see the fruit of that a little bit. JG had guys playing well over their head in that first year. I mean, the talent level, I think we all know, was a little suspect, but he had guys playing well, and that speaks to his ability as a coach. That you're getting guys to come up and and play at a level they shouldn't. I think there's been some growing pains with that. I think they've had some issues on the offensive side of the ball at times where they kind of gotten in a rut, not been able to shake that out. But I think as they continue to get the personnel, as they continue to get the right players in there, and they continue to build this thing out, I think it's going to be more and more successful. I do believe the Cardinals are going to be competitive in the division this year.
When you kind of first alerted us that Gannon was going to interview for the Cardinals job way back when, end up taking the job, and then we catch up here at the Combine, and you provide us even more insight about who he was in Philadelphia, and you revealed that he took on kind of his first year as DC in Philly, like go infuse that offense, get Jalen Hurts in a good spot, and I'll worry about the defense. And then they rewarded him the following offseason with Hassan Reddick, and then he just had a ton of talent. It seems like that's kind of been what's been going on here. There's just not a whole lot of, known commodities on that defensive side. Outside,
and then we'll get there. He comes from the scouting background. I don't know if any guys know that, but Gannon he was on the scouting side of the house for a while, which is a rarity for the coaches, the head coaches. A lot of times you get in the quality control aspect of it. You're doing a little scouting, but really most of what you're doing is not the way he was. He does it, so he has kind of that innate talent finding ability, and I think they're heavily into doing that, because you got him and Nick Rallis on the defensive side of the ball. Rallis, around the league, I tell you, the rave reviews for Rallis. Yeah. He's going to be a head coach someday. Just a young guy right now, still trying to get his feet under. But people, Sean McVay, a defense title gets thrown around a lot. So, yes, this will be. Sorry, I get long-winded. This will be a off season where you're going to see a lot of defensive additions as they really start to round that thing into what they want.
The Rallis thing,
sure.
real quick,
because
you went there. 31 years old. Is that just too young for him? I thought that he deserved an interview. Pat Sing's getting on the offensive side of the football, but as 31, they was just too scary for NFL teams to have that interview.
And Sean McVay's the exception, not the rule, right? You go back, you look at Raheem Morris's first term as head coach. He was just too. I was there in Tampa. He was too young for that. He was just not prepared. There's not enough distance between your age and the age of some of these guys just coming in. You're still in your party phase. And it's, for a lot of guys. And so it was tough, even for a guy as smart as Raheem Morris, who's now got a second chance, obviously there in Atlanta, but. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to be that young, command respect of a staff, a building, not just the players, and have your mind on that attention to detail level that you need to have. And not that Nick doesn't have it, he does. But at that, it's just tough. It's a tough sell to NFL teams. You'll start to see the steam pick up on it, not just this year, this cycle, but you'll start to see the steam pick up on Rollins. He'll be a head coach in the next 2-3 years.
Let's talk a little NFL free agency. There's the Stafford kind of back and forth that everybody's kind of John with. You've got Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport kind of going back and forth. Let me just get your take. Is Stafford going to get traded, in your opinion? Do you think that's viable right now?
Well, you guys want the whole story? I'll give you the whole story.
All right, let's do it.
If the Rams trade Matt Stafford, and I'm still not 100% convinced they're going to do that, it'll be to the Raiders. And I think I put that out last night. But it's if you, with all due respect to Ian Rappaport, is a good friend. Jordan is correct on this one, although the location is actually off. They were at Yellowstone, but that's beside the point. It was don't go to Tom's house because that's outside the rules, but we're going to meet up in this, this resort. They're recruiting him. They're trying to recruit him to the Raiders. They're trying to see if they can make it work. I'm still not 100% convinced the Rams are actually going to do this, but I will say Rams fans being mad about this meetup and now source off going on is the height of irony given Kyle, a couple of years ago. Yeah, Sean McVay and Matt Stafford just happened to hit that same resort.
Right.
It's weird how that happens, as far as that stuff goes. So yeah, it was planned, it was designed, all that kind of stuff to give it the and the Rams know. The Rams knew the whole time. Like, it's not like Stafford's not telling the Rams what's going on. There are other teams involved. I mean, like the Giants would like to get involved, but they don't. I had some dinner with some people over there the other night. They don't believe they're getting him. And it's the Steelers and Browns are non-starters for Stafford. So
Raiders 6th pick and play then for that?
No.
Okay.
No. You're talking like 2 2s. I mean, you might see somebody the request is for a 1, but if it's a 1, it'll be a future 1. It definitely won't be that 6th pick. The Raiders need that to put Janty in there as well. So
is Rossini is a very good insider. Her reporting's often very accurate, saying about. But how much do we buy the Rams saying that they'd be comfortable with Garoppolo if they moved off of Stafford?
Nobody would be comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo in there. That's ludicrous. I'm sure that they said that.
Yeah.
Diana is reporting what somebody said to her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not trying to take a shot at her at all.
Yeah.
She's
nobody.
Great. No, and to be fair, if the Rams do that, it'll be Aaron Rodgers. Like, they'll get Rodgers and Devontae Adams to come over there and fill it. That would be their move there.
Interesting.
No one, by the way, is pulling harder for the Raiders to get Matt Stafford than Aaron Rodgers, because that market is incredibly small if he does not go to LA.
Where do you figure Sam Darnold ends up?
That's the question. Once the Stafford domino falls, that's the thing, because I think he's their primary backup plan. If they don't get Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold's their primary backup plan. One team that doesn't really get talked about for Sam Darnold that I think is a strong possibility is Tennessee Titans. I really do believe they love Abdul Carter there at number 1.
Yep.
And I believe that they would want somebody in there that they could say, hey, look, we can't go into this season with Will Levis. I mean, that makes my eyes bleed every time I'm watching that game. But you can go in there with Sam Darnold and say, we're trying. So I don't rule them out. I mean, the other suspects out there, the Cleveland, at least he knows the offense.
What about the Colts?
I know that they're the open competition thing, but I think they want to bring somebody in to say they're having a competition to motivate Richardson.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they pick up Trey Lance and have an open competition.
Wow.
But we'll see about that.
Woof.
We've got 2 top 10 picks here. We're trying.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can. You can ultimate spin zone that, but confidence would not be high.
If they do go back for somebody with more gravitas, they could bring Gardner Minshew back. I mean, that worked. You can bring Minshew back.
As we get into the offseason conversation, I always call it like the Cracker Barrel kids menu, like connecting the dots. Jonathan Gannon, former players, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. Do you see that as a realistic option for the Arizona Cardinals? You think that there's a landing spot for one or both?
Both. If they can pull it off, both. Both those guys would be interested in playing for JG again. And if they can pull that off, both. The questions for Arizona aren't, is this the coach? Is this the owner? Can we make this work? Is this the owner?
Right.
And so that's the thing. You got guys that are, and you guys, I'm sure, saw the report card and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's just, and you know how it is. But that's these players like, okay, this is the coach. This is the front office. Mm-hmm. Is this the owner that, is this owner? So.
But they got J.J. Watt to come there and be a beacon because they paid him, handsomely.
Well, they paid a premium to do it.
I mean, don't you feel like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat are just going to go whomever pays them the most?
Not necessarily. I mean, you go to a scheme, you want to. There's a legacy component to this too. You know, you want to go somewhere where you can excel. The last thing you want to do is go somewhere, take a paycheck, and watch the rest of your career die.
Yeah.
You know, there's a legacy component to that. I think reuniting with somebody that you know what he's running, you know what he wants out of you, know what the expectation is. I think that creates a better work environment and allows people to be more successful.
What about a Hassan Reddick? Could you see a reunion there?
Less so.
Do you feel like
I don't think he's coming back to Arizona. I mean, we'll see.
You feel like teams are turned off by what Reddick did last year?
No, not necessarily. I think, I think I think he's gonna have options. So, whether there are teams that may be turned off by that, he's gonna have two or three options. So the question there becomes, if some teams are turned off by it, how many aren't? Because so and so's and desperation makes fools of us all. So it's probably the best way to put that.
Let's continue this conversation. The Cardinals also looks like they're moving on from Kazir White, who was great for 2 years, but I think they want to get younger, maybe more athletic at the off-ball linebacker position. Some interesting candidates there, and then also the guard position. They've got one guard position to fill, and it seems like they might be willing to spend some money. Any targets our fan base should know about?
On the linebacker, I don't have a name for you there.
Okay.
I will say on the guard thing, the Dalton Reisner thing with Minnesota. I don't know if that's done, but maybe. And if it is, then he would be a candidate. Wants to stay fairly close to the area. Obviously, he's from Colorado. Wants to stay a little bit close to the area. Knows the offense. Knows and operates well within that style of blocking. So,
why were teams cool on him last offseason?
The number that he wanted was more than teams were. That's sort of been the problem. And I'll say this. I'll give you an anecdote about Dalton Reisner. We had on our radio show, we're in Denver. He comes out. He's a rookie. Hadn't played a game yet, right? Comes on out there, and normally these guys, we have them out for an hour, we pay them the fee, they do the little bit, and then they leave, right? This guy went around the restaurant, shook the hand of every single person in that restaurant, signed autographed, did whatever, stopped for photos. Every single person thanked him for coming out before he left on his own dime. Like that was after, his appearance time was up and all that kind of stuff. Great guy. But I think his idea of what it is that he is worth in terms of a free agent has always been a little on the inflated side.
Yeah.
And then, to be fair, I mean, shouldn't we all view ourselves, that way? But at the same time, I mean, when you're working within the confines of an NFL salary cap, that's a little bit different. So
let's move on to the top 10 of the draft. Cardinals picking 16, and I've said this many times, Benjamin. It just feels like a bad year to have a top 10 pick.
Well, it feels like a bad year to have a top, to 16 because you got 12 guys in this draft that have blue chip grades on them.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the thing. I think Arizona would love to move backwards a little bit. If you could trick a New Orleans into coming up and getting Jackson Dart after they punt on Derek Carr, which they're talking about not punting on Carr now, but nobody's buying that. So, we'll see. But I mean, it's tough to have if you got to pick 1 through 10, you're fine. It's just the picks after that where you're starting to be like, all right, is something going to fall here?
Right.
Please take the quarterback so that something falls our direction. 16 is a rough spot. Broncos sit at 20. It's a rough spot to be sitting at.
How do you feel like the top 10 is going to shake out right now? Both quarterbacks go in the top 10. You feel like Shedeur and Cam Ward?
Yeah, I think both will. I think Abdul Carter's going to go number 1, and from there it starts to get fun. Do the Jets trade up for Cam Ward at 2? Do the Giants take Shedeur Sanders at 3? The Giants have been out there to Colorado for every game this year, so that's Shedeur or Travis. You've got a New England team that it's interesting because you see Travis Hunter get mocked there all the time. But I don't think they view him as a receiver. I think they view him as a corner. They got plenty of corners. And Mike Vrabel's always been a guy that's like, hey, let's get the front 7 shoring up before we get the back end. So to me, that sort of reads like a Mason Graham kind of thing if they're high on him. Jacksonville could be a Travis Hunter, landing spot if you look at that. And of course they've got, they got Brian Thomas. They're talking about running the offense through, but they do need additional help there. I would not be surprised to see Cooper Kupp wind up there in Jacksonville too. And nobody's really been talking about Kupp, I think, this week and with it. But Christian Kirk's going to hit the market. I think that's kind of the scenario there. We'll see. That's not it's not done, but that's a possibility. Who's the 6 Raiders? I think that's Janty.
You think they're going to take?
I know they want to double dip on running back. They obviously they want to get Stafford, then they want to double dip on running back. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come away with Janty and Quinshon Judkins, both.
Ohio State back. Huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chip's there. He's obviously familiar, but they want to run the football. Like whoever they have, they want to run the ball. And so that's sort of that thing. I'm trying to remember who's at 7 now. I'm drawing a blank. It's the Jets, I think.
Here, I got the big board right here, the full order. So the Jets are at 7, Carolina, New Orleans, Chicago.
The Jets could be, like I said, a move up, swap with Cleveland, kind of thing. Yeah. So you could see Cleveland take a defensive player or whatever there. At that point, Carolina, I think, is on a corner. We'll see there. And then who's after Carolina?
The Chicago Bears.
Bears, that's right.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be offensive line. So
Yeah, and the Saints,
be, right?
Saints are in the mix right there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe the Saints will take the quarterback there, but I do believe they'll jump back into the first round and try to get a quarterback as well.
So Saints are a target that could potentially get up the board. Is that the Cardinals maybe leaning into the strength of this draft because they want to get more defensive front seven players, and it's 41 defensive linemen here. You got the edge class, and it's tough to kind of differentiate, right? I mean, and then they could just take who they view as the best player available.
Yeah, I think in this one you're just sitting there, your fingers crossed. You're hoping both quarterbacks go. You're hoping there's a couple of players in there that
Two tight ends,
yeah, right,
a running back,
right. You're hoping the running backs. You're hoping the receivers, and all that kind of stuff. I know I've heard some rumblings that people down there want your boy out of Arizona, but I don't think that's
T-Mac.
I don't think that's the case. There for Arizona this year. I mean, for the Cardinals this year. I think you're kind of hoping those kind of things happen because if they do, they'll push one or two of these blue chip players right down there in your lap, and you have the opportunity to pick something up in a class that's not very deep at those kind of things, so you can go back and get some of this other stuff later.
It feels like a great draft to be able to take like a rotational defensive end, pass rushers late in the first round into day 2 and load up. But that would make it almost a mandate, Ben, that they don't strike out in free agency. And that's kind of been the theory or the narrative. Ossenfort kind of dipped his toe in last year, went kind of mid-level shopping. 2 years ago, you mentioned he tore it all down. If I had to put you on the spot right now, we fast forward 2 weeks to free agency. You give me one name that you feel like best chance to be an Arizona Cardinal. Who would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. Sweat would be the name, I think. And that's obvious, and since we already talked about that, I'll try. Maybe so I think the Commanders aren't going to find a trade partner. And I think they will wind up cutting
for Payne.
Wind up cutting the defensive tackle, and that might be something in there. I believe there's going to be a commitment to to that front seven.
Yeah,
and it's going to make that it'll make the secondary better. So I would not be surprised to see them come away with 2, maybe even 3 free agents along that defensive line.
And it makes sense because they signed 2 D tackles last year. They were hurt. They drafted Darius. They at least have bodies at DT.
Right.
They have no depth of note at edge rusher.
Right.
As much as I think they would have to overpay Sweat based on
they will.
Jonathan Grenard got.
That's free agency anyway. Free agency, you're paying A+ money for B+ talent. I mean, they wouldn't be free agents if if teams were trying to build around.
Do you think Sweat could get back to being a double-digit sack artist for Wallace and Gannon?
I think with the right people around him, yeah, and certainly you're in a division where you're going to get the opportunity to go after a quarterback, especially up there in Seattle. But you're going to get the opportunity to go after a quarterback, and so I don't think that's outside the realm of possibilities. I think that if you put the over/under at 9.5. I think that's a fair number.
You talked about 2 running backs already. We got to get your feel on Cam Skattebo because obviously we're in the backyard and everybody's high as you can be on Cam Skattebo. What's your sense on him?
I'm a lot lower on him than people, so I don't want to disappoint your audience too much. You watch that first step is pretty slow. He is not. It's weird to me because the comparisons that people make are not apropos. That's not Mike Allstott. I mean, he's 30 pounds lighter than Allstott. To me, it's kind of if you're looking at this somewhere. I mean, I'm making white running back comparisons here because whatever, but somewhere in between poor man's Peyton Hillis and
who's also bigger,
and Toby Gerhart, right?
Yeah.
And those guys were both bigger. I just think if you're looking at Skattebo, like the way that I'm looking at him, I'm not looking at him as a running back. I'm looking at him more as like an OW. I can line him up at running back, but he's more of like an H back that I can move around because he can catch the ball a little bit, and if I could put him back there and get him, we would find 10 to 12 ways to get him to touch the ball, a game or touch him a game. But a lot of that, I think of him more as a third down guy than I do like a true running back in the NFL. And so I haven't heard anybody that likes him as like a day 1 or day 2 guy. That doesn't mean that he's not, but I think he's probably one of those guys that you see early day 3, those first 10, 12 picks at day 3. And you're like, all right, yep, we'll take a chance on that. We'll find something to make it work.
Real quick, because I know we're keeping you long. Harold Landry reports today that he could potentially be traded. And I do think that they would have to give up something, unlike Jonathan Payne, who's 30 years old. Landry coming off 3 double-digit sack seasons with Ossenfort's connection to Tennessee. Could that be an avenue if something like Sweat fell through?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I haven't heard that, so I don't want to make sure we're not reporting that. But I haven't heard that.
I think Schefter tweeted it out this morning.
But no, I mean, as far as in terms of Arizona.
Okay, got it. Yeah, no. Yeah,
I know the Harold Landry portion of it. I'm talking about Arizona interest. I don't know about any Arizona interest in that. I would assume. I mean, it's Harold Landry. I would assume you would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd be willing to pay what that would take. That would be the question there.
Sure.
So
what do you think in ballpark with that? Third?
For Landry?
Yeah.
Probably something that's that conditionally could push it higher. You know, if he hits another double-digit sack,
Right.
you know, that kind of thing, it either gets you another pick or moves a little higher. I think you're right in the ballpark right there, a third plus. You know, let's call it a third plus.
Yeah.
Not a lot of draft capital. I mean, they'd have to be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you're in the you guys aren't. I don't think in the trade market. I think you're in the free agent and draft market and go from there.
You'd rather overpay somebody and not have to give up that
capital,
young
right?
asset.
You want the bullets in the gun, not the so.
First mock draft. When's that?
Oh, I only do one every
Just
year.
one.
Every once in a while, I'll do that little. If I had to guess today,
Yeah, those are
just
great.
to do a little teaser kind of thing because that's kind of fun. But I do one mock draft every year. I do it the day before, and this year I might do it the day of because there's some of these contests that people do. You know, they put at the contest.
Yeah,
people have been copying.
Yeah,
and then they put it out there, and I'm like, first of all, I'm not important enough to copy. Don't do that. But second of all, like, come on, guys. So I might wait till the deadline passes for those things just to put it out. I hate to do that, but you know.
The best, man.
Yeah,
the
KOA in Denver.
Yes.
Of course, guy Benjamin Albright still doing it at a high level, highest level.
Mediocre level.
Mediocre. We're on par with that.
We'll always be indebted for this man coming on this show, breaking the news about Jonathan Gannon.
Sorry when we were at that tampering pick, guys.
When we were, no worries. We were slumming it talking about Mike Kafka's of the world, and Ben rode in on his white horse and took care of it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let you do that. I wasn't going to let you go down that yet.
Yeah, appreciate it. Benjamin Albright joining us. Hope to talk to you soon, my guy.
Absolutely, guys. Take care,
man.
Yeah.
See you, bud.
Got more coming up here on PHNX Cardinals.
But first, let's talk about our friends at Waymo.
Love Waymo.
We do. I'm hoping to take Waymo en route back to Phoenix from the airport, not all the way from Indy. But I'm sure Waymo could assist me there. Regardless, they are doing phenomenal work right now with the fully autonomous driverless cars operated by the Waymo driver. We're so fired up to be partnered up with Waymo. Again, they've got ride-hailing services consisting of all electronic Jaguar I-Pace vehicles. So you're riding in style and in comfort. They're providing a consistent zero-emission experience for their riders. And if you're wondering, how often do these happen? They happen often. 150,000 trips per week from San Francisco, Los Angeles, and, of course, our home base back in Phoenix. Waymo was the first company to serve a fully autonomous ride with no human being behind the wheel back in 2015. 10 years later, they have dominated the market with 40 million miles of real-world driving experience. That's enough to drive to the moon and back 80 times. How about it? Download the Waymo app today. Ride for yourself. Check it out. We've done it. We can't wait to do it again. Hey, friends, Waymo, they're for you.
Love Waymo. Why not just order up Waymo, get you your brand new house? Why don't you buy a new home in 2025? Get out there. Talk to Carol Royce's team of real estate agents who've been in the Valley for over 3 decades and sold over 12,000 homes. She knows exactly what she's doing, and so does every single member on her team. Family run. You got to check them out. Check out our friend Carol Royce right now. 480-776-5231. That's 480-776-5231. Be a VIP buyer. Get access to off-market properties, not, the ones that you get to watch where you got your feet up watching TV at night on Zillow or Realtor.com. You get exclusive access to homes that you're not going to be able to find that have already been picked over. And if you're worried about financing, Carol works with the best lenders, ensuring you have the best rates and loan options. And if you got to check it out right now. If you don't love your home, Carol Royce will buy it back. What an unbelievable guarantee she can make you there. Check out right now. If you're ready to find your dream home, take the next step. Call Carol Royce and visit Carol Royce online at royceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Benjamin Albright bringing the heat in that interview. I want to debrief that. But
yeah, we do have more on the team report card, which will come up later. But
we've got a ton. But Albright, we didn't know. We bring on Ben every year at the Combine. He's so generous with his time. He's an insider, and he's based out of Colorado. And he's come on the show many times. And I didn't expect to have him have specific names today, and for him to drop kind of those bombshells. I mean, your reaction to the Sweat Milton Williams report, like those are key targets for the Cardinals.
Yeah, you should be encouraged.
Yeah,
that the team is willing to get into negotiations with who's viewed as the top players at their respective positions going into free agency.
Yeah.
So, and connect Jonathan Gannon with 2 players that were immensely successful under him, and then we're just really successful in the Super Bowl. And people will kind of, raise their hand and say, "Hey, that seems like it's too much for a guy like Joshua Sweat." But you look at the lack of production from the edge rushing position the last 2 seasons because of the lack of talent in that room. He at least raises your talent floor. And I think that he's a proven commodity. You know what you're going to get, and it's more than you've been getting from that room the last 2 seasons. It doesn't mean that I don't think that you should continue to swing at that position. I think you also add one in the draft because it's a deep class. But you have to, just because free agency comes first, I think you have to do one before the other. And Josh Sweat and really Milton Williams should get you excited.
Yeah, if you're fired up about that, like this video. Again, we got over 300 watching live on YouTube alone. We're fired up about our coverage this week. So much going on, but it's imperative you guys smash that like button, subscribe to PHNX Sports here online. I mean, that was the first time that I've heard both could potentially be Arizona Cardinals, and I think with everything going on with the Arizona Cardinals right now, and just the fact with these NFLPA grades, which we're going to dissect a little bit more, like I don't want the Cardinals to be reactive, and I kind of toyed with that idea when we were off air. Like, could the Cardinals now go and make within free agency to kind of counteract that? But it is what this fan base deserves. The fan base deserves to be excited about this team from a football standpoint. The fan base should be able to say, hey, the two best defensive players on the market, arguably, they're coming to the Arizona Cardinals because of the ties with their head coach, which you've earned, and the money from your GM, which you've earned from cutting the likes of DeAndre Hopkins 2 years ago and, putting away your dollars and your cents, right, to make sure that you had an opportunity to strike. And, again, at the end of the day, it's feasible to sign them both.
It is. Like, the estimated, average annual salary for these guys is 18 and 20 millions respectively, and that's a big number. That's 38 million, close to 40 million dollars that you're going to, put on your cap right away. But Cardinals, whenever they lock in the salary cap, the NFL does, and it's going to be soon. Cardinals are expected to have, at the very least, $60 million in effective cap space to deal with, and like the guys that they want to re-sign, I mean, it's not going to cost them much to do that.
Yeah.
And like you very well could get both of them at a high price. I mean, you'd be paying for it.
Yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, like, the Cardinals have war daddies on offense. I think they've got one on defense, maybe two. They need front seven war daddies for Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis. What would it do for a guy like Darius to play next to Milton Williams, and for his development, right? And for Josh Sweat to be able to say, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to help supplement where Zaven Collins, you don't have to play every down.
Yeah.
And you can do what you're best at. And then they can take a JT or a Jack Sawyer at 47 or a James Pierce at 16, and they're just like, hey, we're not going to put everything on you guys to come in with your Superman cape. Plus, I don't think this is an oversell. I don't think this is overrated. You get two guys who dominated the Super Bowl that have winning culture experience. You want to tell me right now that Jonathan Gannon's culture experience isn't helping? Now you get an extension of that in your locker room. Think about what Kazir White has done, help bring the Cardinals to this point. You need to level up your defensive line play bigger than just the attributes on the field. You need to get guys prepared to see what it looks like. And stalwarts like Dante Stills and Zaven Collins, they've done a tremendous job these last 2 years. They've done more than what's asked of them. And I think both will be rewarded long-term. Zaven already got his extension. You need guys to come in and say, okay, guys, you've taken us to here. This is how we get to winning the NFC West, winning playoff games. It takes guys like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. So, I mean, when you hear Benjamin Albright say that, he's not just putting things out there.
Right.
Specifically because he threw water on my pipe dream of wanting Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, and he wanted to make sure, like when we were just speculating recklessly, you and I.
Yeah.
Said, well, I want to make sure that's, guys don't say that's a report.
Right.
Right. And he was careful with that. And he's not just going to kind of shoot from the hip. Another thing like that came across my way today out here in Indianapolis is like we're talking to these defensive linemen today at the podium.
Yeah.
And Mason Graham's going to go in the top 10. So he's off the board unless you're aggressively trading up, which I don't think they'll do. So then you're looking at the next wave of defensive tackles. And I'm talking to guys about Kenneth Grant. I'm talking about Walter Nolan and people in the know who know Jonathan Gannon and what he prefers in some of his criteria. He doesn't think that those guys match what Jonathan Gannon likes from his play.
It's interesting.
So what Jonathan Gannon absolutely meshes with is, especially at the defensive line, is Milton Williams.
Right. We'll hear about it from Mike Garafolo later in the show. But like just the draft response when they got Milton Williams. I mean, like Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, what this would do to infuse this fan base with energy and with excitement after the season did not end well. And now we're talking about things that are outside of football with this franchise. We want to focus on football. Reward your fan base, and I think they will. I made a tongue-in-cheek comment, like the result of these NFLPA grades could result in the Cardinals like overcompensating. Like, right, look over here, we're making signings, but I want to have more trust and belief that Ossenfort and Gannon are on lockstep, and we're going to be aggressive and we're going to get these guys. And at the end of the day, they're going to have an opportunity to show everybody what they're made of. We've got more content here. We're going to jump back into the NFLPA grades because we've got JC Tretter on lock right now, coming up right after the break. He's going to break down what went into these grades, whether or not the league can interfere, that they can basically tell the Cardinals what to do, all that, the in-depth breakdown on the NFLPA grades, that's right around the corner. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at Circle K. So fired up to get back in Phoenix in my home base at Circle K. And again, if you're not a member of the Inner Circle, join right now for free. All you got to do, enter your phone number or email address, and all you need from there is just to enter your phone number when you're up at the pump, and you're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day. Again, if you go into the Inner Circle, Circle K app, you look under exclusive deals, and man, oh man, it's more than just saving on gas. It's more than a 79-cent Polar Pop. They're going to hook you up. It's a one-stop shop, right? So you think convenience store? It is convenient for you to be an Inner Circle member. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Bo, visit CircleK.com for more details.
I love that. Miss my Circle K. Need to get back to one as soon as we get back to the Valley. And as soon as we get back to the Valley, I'm getting my tickets for Phoenix Raceway. NASCAR returns Phoenix Raceway March 7th through 9th. I was saying this to somebody recently. We were watching the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
My son, he loves anything with an engine in it, anything you can drive. He was getting into the Daytona 500, got me fired up for some racing as well. Join us for the stars of NASCAR as they battle it out at the Shriners Children 500 Phoenix Raceway. There's nothing like witnessing the stars of NASCAR battle at 200 miles per hour on the 1-mile oval raceway in the foothills of those beautiful Estrella Mountains. Be a part of the community that's going on there, down there. You know, on the infield, or you get up in the stands. You can have it's been recently renovated. It's beautiful what they've done out of Phoenix Raceway. 40 drivers compete amongst, the likes Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Butter. We like Butter, right? Ross Chastain and Bubba Wallace, 2024 NASCAR Cup Series champion Joey Logano. That's Johnny's favorite guy because he loves chalk.
That's gross. Logano? I hate Logano.
It's Johnny's guy. Best in the class. We're not shocked by it, but it's Johnny's guy.
He is my guy.
Experience the whole family. They won't forget. Get your tickets right now. PhoenixRaceway.com. That's PhoenixRaceway.com.
Everybody drop a like on this video. Again, the goal, 500 likes here on a Football Wednesday. We're live from the 2025 NFL Combine. And again, if you're just joining us right now, continuing to break down the fallout, Cardinals ranked dead last in the 3rd annual, now 2025 NFLPA team report cards. And let's jump over to our guy, JC Tretter. But anything you want to kick it off before we throw it to him?
I mean, we're going to get into, the fallout. We're going to get into what's incoming for the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get into their statement as far as what, their response was to being ranked dead last in the NFLPA team report cards. But let's give some insight here from the chief strategy officer from the NFLPA, JC Tretter. PHNX Cardinals coverage continues here from Indianapolis, the NFL Combine. Team report cards came out courtesy of the NFL Players Association. We have their chief strategy officer, former NFL player, JC Tretter. JC, Cardinals now 3 years that you guys have been doing this. 31st, 27th, 32nd. What was the big reason for the Cardinals' fall?
Yeah, I think let's go through each year. Year one, like you said, 31st. Then the next year, 27th. I think you saw improvements made. They added a family room. They added daycare. They stopped charging for meals. They put in new floors in the weight room. They made changes that you saw them move up. The issue here is everybody's moving, right? So you're seeing teams like the Commanders go from 32nd to 11th. You're seeing the Chargers go from 30th to 5th.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say things are getting worse, but other teams are making drastic improvements that it pushes guys that aren't making changes further down the list. So there's nothing that stands out of, hey, they rolled something back, they did something different. It's you're seeing other teams that were below them move up and teams that were above them also move up, which creates a distance between.
This might seem like a foolish question, but I know the owners are independent, right? They can more or less do what they want to do. At what point could the NFL step in and just say, hey, these facilities are not up to NFL standards? Like, we've been in the locker room. mean, it's pretty embarrassing that they have these kind of facilities where most of the collegiate players we're seeing now, Cardinals have a ton of first and second year players. They're telling you indirectly, like, our college facilities were better than this. Could the league ever step in and force them to make changes?
I can't speak for the league. I think this is one thing, like, the point of this project was getting information to the guys and giving them an idea of what goes on at different facilities. Because again, sometimes you get drafted to a team and this is all you ever know. And until somebody gets traded or picked up there in free agency, do you ever get an experience of, hey, in Minnesota, we got this and we had this state-of-the-art thing, and you realize, like, oh, what I'm getting here is not top of the line. There's a step down that I'm receiving. I think that's kind of the goal, the point of these is freedom of information in our members, getting this information, be able to understand what each team offers. So we can't control what the league does. I definitely can't speak for what the league can do or would want to do, but I think what we are seeing is overall teams are making drastic improvements. We are seeing teams make giant step-ups, and again, sometimes you are restricted by your facility. There's no wall to knock down or place to go, but there are other areas that you can drastically improve, and I think that's what we saw with the Commanders this year. 32nd for 2 straight years. Their facility is still the exact same facility, but what they did, brought in a coach, highly graded. They made changes to the family offerings, made a huge jump. They made changes to the food program, huge jump. They made all these little tiny changes, the way they travel, huge jump. That you saw a jump from 32nd to 11th. We're not talking $50 million of investment to make that jump. We're talking about working around the fringes to make things that guys have complained about or brought up previously. Let me fix these because they're not that hard to fix.
Yeah, the optics of this, it's tough, right? I mean, as you said, things over the last 3 years, or especially since you guys started doing this, have been on the rise. It seems like things just keep getting better and better, but to go 32 out of 32, the Arizona Cardinals, it seems like that facility is the driving force. I mean, where do we see that the Cardinals, is there any conversations post these grades release that they start to maybe communicate some improvements that they could make?
Maybe. Again, like that's the hope too, is you get the feedback, and it's really tough for a player to give that feedback individually. It's tough for them to walk into their owner's office and say, hey, this isn't good enough, you're not doing a good enough job. If that's the expectation owners have, like, they're probably not going to hear from many guys. Like, that's just a really rare breed of person that's willing to do that and put themselves out there. So the point of these is to put it out there to see what changes. And again, we have seen drastic increases. Overall, 32 teams, the average total score went up 3.5 points this year. Went from an average of a B- team to a B team. The top 5 teams, same thing. We saw a raise. So even the top 5 are still improving 3.5 points. The bottom 5, and this I think is a more interesting one, last year the average of those 5 teams was a D+. That was what they were ranked. This year the average of those 5 teams is a C. So it's not that they're doing worse or they should be embarrassed. In the end, my hope, and we're a long way from this, but my hope is we can give out 32 A's across the board, A+ across the board. And in the end, even if we did that, there would be a last place A+ team. So there's always going to be 32, so you got to look at the details of how that gets broken out.
Real quick, and then we'll get you out of here. How is this delivered to the owners? Is it delivered? Do you email it? Is it facilitated to them? Do you typically see responses at all?
So we communicate to our members. So that's why, like, we put it out publicly on our website so our players can access it. Also, the players read the media, so having other people cover it helps get the word out of what's going on and get them alert to what that is. But again, this is not something that we do in partnership with the league. I think there are owners and staff members that want the feedback. We have heard that from them of, hey, again, they realize too, the generation of 15, 20 years ago that were willing to walk up to the office and say, I got a problem here and I want you to fix it, it's not the same anymore. So I think this is, for a lot of teams, the only way that they get real feedback, and I think a lot of teams appreciate it. I can't say all of them, but I think a lot of teams say, like, this is my one way to make improvements, to hear exactly what my guys think, and then I can go out and do something. I think we would love to be a resource for those teams. There are some issues with the league that we have to work through to be that resource, but I think teams have shown, based off the grades, that they have a willingness to improve. They have improved and they want to do better, and a lot of these people, it's below an ownership level, right? Like, it's not just the owner that's executing this stuff. It's staff members, it's trainers, it's family planning coordinators. They just want to do good at their job. And I think that's something everybody can relate to, where they just want to know how to do good at their job because they take it really serious and want to do well.
JC Tretter from the NFL Players Association, the Chief Strategy Officer, helping holding these teams accountable, including the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Great stuff from JC Tretter and the NFLPA. And listen, at the end of the day, these grades are great. Even though the Cardinals' grades aren't great, it's great that they exist because they're improving. They're making teams make changes for the betterment of the players. And this is an extension of the players, their families, their well-being. And at the end of the day, like, we're a pro player podcast. Like, we want the Cardinals to do well collectively as an organization, but we want their players to be well represented and treated well. We want the best for Paris Johnson and Marvin Harrison Jr. all the way down to the practice squad players and the developmental guys, right? So I just feel like you can look at this a couple different ways. But my hope, and maybe I'm naive, is that Michael Bidwill will look at these and continue to look at these and saying, okay, we cranked it up to 3, now we got to go to 7.
Yeah.
Now we got to go to 10, right? I hope that's the fallout from this.
The fallout, especially for the teams that are always at the bottom
Right.
of this, is when you see a meteoric rise like Washington had, that it's possible. And as JC Tretter outlined there, they're not making wholesale changes. They're not just knocking down, walls and creating spaces that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
They're making simple tweaks, but they're investing in it, and they're showing a sense of urgency that's been lacking here. It's like you made strides. You went from 31 to 27. That's good. You can get a golf clap for that, but at the same time, it wasn't enough to keep up with the NFL Joneses, and you have to be able to do that innovation-wise. You have to be able to sink money into it, and that's why people won't get away from, ownership. What changes will always remain the same, right? As much as you see them investing in the product on the field and putting the proper salary cap dollars into it. And I'll contest anybody that fights back on that. Bidwill has not, been cheap as far as spending on the roster.
Never.
He goes out there, he makes guys highest paid players at their positions and will max out the cap if that's what his GM wants to do. But as far as investing in the facility and the details that go into being a successful franchise, it's shown that it's severely lacking. Now you can spin this up a little bit and you can look at it and say, like JC did, where from year one of this exercise, every team has improved, right? Overall, the grading system, you're seeing the average go up. But when you finish dead last, that's a problem.
Yeah, you have to wear it as a badge of shame. Like, the Cardinals are going to have to eat this for 365 days until next year, right? Because the Commanders, that owner is gone now, that people then classify as the worst owner in the NFL, that got back-to-back consistently, right? It wasn't even particularly close. Well, now who carries the mantle directly or indirectly? The Cardinals now are that last franchise. So I see people like spin it, the narrative, like, well, look, the Eagles were in the 20s and Kansas City got bad grades last year. It's like, but to your point, the Cardinals are in this mix every year, every single year. And again, what's going to be tough is, yes, you can make incremental changes, and I hope that they do, to how they treat players' families and the sideline passes, the nutrition, right? That all can be implemented yesterday. That needs to be
Nutrition's there.
Right.
It's the cafeteria.
Cafeteria. Yeah, I apologize. Mm-hmm. The facility thing, which let's get to that now. So the Cardinals have come out and said, we're going to make a commitment. We're going to upgrade the facility. But it's not going to be done overnight, Bo.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So let's read the statement here from the Arizona Cardinals. The 9 a.m. Arizona time, and then that's that long after the Cardinals released a statement, and here it is. Our goal is to provide the best possible environment, facilities, and resources to give the team the greatest opportunity to succeed. We are working hard to achieve that. Last season, we shared with our players the plans of a new training facility at an existing Tempe location with a targeted completion date of 2027. We have hired Rossetti, a leading architecture firm that has worked with a number of NFL teams with their new facilities, and the design process is underway. We will continue to explore all other ways, large and small, that we can get better in every single area of our operation. So 2027, Cardinals expect to have their training facility renovated in the plans of a new training facility that's existing in the Tempe location.
I would love to have seen this 6 months ago, 3 months ago, a month ago.
This morning would have helped. This morning, before these team report cards came out. And the team maintains that, like, this is something that they were actively working on, and as the NFLPA outlined, like, the teams find out the team grades the same time we do. they're not alerted on this. Like, they keep them close to their vest. So, like, Michael Bidwill and crew had no clue that this was coming. They're probably like us, where they thought they're either going to be at 27 or maybe go up the board.
If you remember the process, the construction of the stadium, and again, you need permits and approvals for that, but like we were, the media, fan base, I was younger then, like walked through that step by step. Like everybody knew what the plan was. Right? And the Cardinals were at the forefront of letting everybody know what the plan was. This is just really disappointing because it does feel, I mean, it's Jekyll and Hyde. You can be disappointed that it feels reactionary, but then the team would probably push back and say, well, we want to encourage everybody that the changes are coming. We just want to see the Cardinals be ahead of the curve and proactive for once. We want to talk about this team and their initiative, like the great stuff that they're doing with youth and women's and girls flag football is fantastic. They're on the forefront of that, right? That's fantastic. Do the same with this now. Turn the corner, right? And I know this is a much bigger financial commitment, which is probably why they have not been proactive. But I think today is the start of hopefully the understanding within that organization that if we're going to operate as a professional football franchise in 2025, we need to at least be on the level of our peers. Okay? Like nobody expects them to be number one anytime soon. But can you just be in the mix with everybody else? Because the gap is only going to continue to increase. I mean, you guys seen it. The pictures, we're not posting them. They're all over social media. The Cardinals locker room and the Falcons locker room and the Cowboys, right? Hell, go to the collegiate level. Go to Ohio State, right? The players you're drafting from Ohio State that have to leave Columbus and come to Arizona.
Alabama, yeah. Ohio State, Alabama, any of the big schools, even some of the smaller schools, you'll see like some of these locker rooms, you know, they best what the Cardinals have to offer at the NFL level. Like this locker room, which like we've heard rumblings about this. We've talked to players, former players that have seen these renderings and, you know, former coaches like that are saying like, we think that this was just renderings. We just don't know if it's ever going to come to fruition. It feels like now the urgency in now it's like in hindsight is there and it's a proper place. Now you got to continue to. It's not just like, okay, you've got this part of it now. You can check that off and you can look forward to the 2027 training facility that's going to come that they're going to spend $100 million on. But also like you got to keep up with everything else. It's not like just set it and forget it.
So these first grades came out 2 years ago, and the Cardinals were trash for their locker room and their weight room. Remember, the floorboards were sticking up,
right? Hazard, I think they used the word.
So if the team had been proactive at the time, several months after that,
remember they were paying for meals.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Mike Garafolo kind of confirmed that, but yeah. But like my point is, and maybe I'm not making it well, but like the first NFLPA grades came out 2 years ago. Shortly after that, we should have had an announcement like this.
Right.
And this should have been done. And we should be sitting here in 2025, maybe at the end of the year, saying, can't wait to see those new facilities.
Those are wins for the team. Like a brand new training facility in 2027.
Those are easy.
Should be something to be celebrated.
We want to celebrate those.
As soon as you get the architecture firm in place, and I'm sure you got like T's to cross and I's to dot, but like it should be like, get out of the forefront and shout it from the top of Camelback Mountain, like, hey, we're doing what's necessary to up our grades here. Let us tell you about it. There's some things I think in especially in pro sports, even at the collegiate level, like you got to play tight to your vest. But these are wins. Celebrate, like let people know. Like people would have gotten this info today, and if they knew a week ago, whenever before these grades came out, that they got a brand new training facility coming in 2027, people would have been like, well, just wait for the training facility. Like, you know, this is disappointing, but you know, if you got full context of this and everybody's improving, and it's like this is more a product of NFL teams getting up the rankings instead of the Cardinals just falling down and bottoming out, then I can deal with that and can't wait to see how high they'll rise in 2027.
We want to celebrate this team. And for whatever reason, just days like today, it's very disheartening. Because you want the best for the fan base and the players and
the head coach
who
did his job on this report card. He was an A. And those who are watching on our streaming partners, make sure you flip over to gophnx.com, join us for the remainder of the show. And if this is where your journey ends, thank you for watching PHNX Sports here. But yeah, Jonathan Gannon gets an A. You see a couple things that he had his hands on as far as the nutrition and the training staff.
Yeah.
And you see those remain steady. And then you see the stuff that's kind of left to people above him to make the decisions on, ownership, president of the football team, to get done. And it just needs more urgency, and I think it needs a little bit more transparency when in the court of public opinion or publicly you're being held accountable.
I mean, they've gone backwards. They've replaced their strength coach, right? And so, but the other areas you mentioned, like team travel, Michael Bidwill got a private jet. You'd love to see that as an A. I don't know why that's not an A. One of two teams
Is it
that
like
have
the
a private.
Wi-Fi? Maybe something with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And then you look at nutritionist, dietitian.
Actually, I can look at why
that's
travel.
been Gannon and Ossenfort. Like everything else, it's like the treatment of families at a D+. Like I don't want to gloss over that either. Like that. I mean that is not hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's just taking care of human beings,
Yeah.
right? Like here's the toughest part about these NFLPA grades is it just continues to paint the Cardinals in a light, similar to how former employees have stated, that they just don't take care of their people. And I want to champion this organization when we come on the show, but like it just doesn't feel like the best place to work.
Yeah.
And you want better for those people. You want people to be taken care of with their families, with what they put in their body, how they treat their bodies, right, with your facility. I mean, we've seen practices. You've been in a hell of a lot more than I have. These guys kill themselves on the practice field. They should be allowed then to turn around and go to A+ facilities to take care of them. I mean, the Cardinals just had how many players go on injured reserve this year? It's like, I know it's not directly tied to it, but you want them to feel like they're being taken care of with the best. The Miami Dolphins have the #1 back-to-back facilities grades within the NFLPA.
Raise the banner, Damon.
You love to see it. It's like the Arizona Cardinals, I know you can point to, well, it doesn't coordinate to wins. But that's not an excuse not to do it. It should be, we care about these people as human beings. It goes beyond just what we're putting in the checkbook, right? What we're taking care of the direct deposit. We want to make sure that they have the best care now, and then that sets them up for post-football, that their bodies are in a good spot, that their mental, capacity is in a good spot. It just makes me feel like they don't care about the human beings that enter their facility. And that's really sad. That's probably the saddest thing of this whole thing.
It's just another thing that the fan base can't, be prideful about. Just another one. It's like, oh, it's another L for the team.
I just want to say I agree with you guys completely, but also like the upside of being #1 doesn't feel that great when you don't win football games either. So
I think you got to do your damnedest to get out of this
doghouse.
Yeah,
totally.
Of this spot.
It makes you feel worse for sure.
If you're like middle of the road, nobody's talking about this.
We were with our friends from CHGO Bears. Like they were laughing about Eberflus because he was rated last, where Gannon was an A. He was a top 8. But like the Bears are kind of in the middle of the mix, and people like Dawg on their ownership too. But like they're doing just enough to get by, and I'm not advocating for just enough, but like, I mean, people have seen photos. Players obviously now are condemning it. Like the locker room and the weight room are just not NFL caliber weight rooms and facilities. They're just not. And I don't know when that was first pointed out. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was 10 years ago. It's like
it was kind of when we were doing when they had Hard Knocks, and they're getting glimpses. Remember, Pat McAfee's show was poking fun of what they saw the previous night on Hard Knocks, and AQ Shipley, a former player, is saying that they just weren't up to standards then, and that was months before the first NFLPA grades were released.
Yeah, Pat McAfee on this show kind of alluded to it.
Yeah. And he took flack for it.
He did.
Because, I think in fans, us included, like, I think our, the first reaction, at least was to protect their team that they root for. But then, like, once you start to kind of peel back the onion, you start to see, like, especially compared to some of the top collegiate programs and the teams that do it right around the league, you're just not, it's not good enough.
Here's what I will say, and I know that we see a lot of this out there. I'm going to be careful how I broach the subject, but there's a lot of, like, just sell the team. Sell it and be done. And, I'll give the flagship radio station, when they interviewed Michael Bidwill last week, they asked, fans want to know, is this another Sarver situation as it relates to some of the off-the-field stuff that has come out? And Michael Bidwill took that at face value and talks about improving workplace culture. Talk is cheap. I get that. The NFLPA grades will force change, whether it's short-term or long-term. Like, there was no NFLPA grades 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? So it is holding teams accountable, and it's only gaining more and more steam every year. So I think there's going to be a point where this just kind of the camel breaks, the back here.
The straw.
Right, straw breaks the camel's back. Sorry, it's been a long day. I just feel like if Michael Bidwill wants to continue owning this franchise, and by all accounts he does, then he will make these changes. Like, I fully believe, like, at the end of the day, when you got enough people saying, like, this is bad, you can't run from that, especially when you're asking for more money for season tickets and you want people to buy in, and especially if you want to employ high-level people like Gannon and Ossenfort. You can't just say, hey, guys, we're just going to cut corners here. So I think we will see action now, but I think it goes back to that original point that we started the show off with, and JC Tretter said this. They've done improvements, but they have been lapped and lapped and lapped by the other teams. The other teams saw that 2 years ago and last year and said, this is unacceptable. We have to make major changes. This is embarrassing. The Cardinals did not take it like that. They said, the biggest thing that came out of that first report card was the food, charging for it. We can take care of that real quick. And then everything else, it was kind of like buried underneath. And then maybe they thought they'd be in the same spot as last year. So sense of urgency, we're going to see.
We will, but it's not a great. It's the optics of this is terrible. I mean, and you can look at it and you can listen to somebody's so insightful as far as JC Tretter, and you can be excited. Like, you should be excited about a new training facility coming in 2027, and can't wait to see what that's going to look like, and I can't wait for it to happen. 2 years from now for the Arizona Cardinals, and it should be a step in the right direction. But we'll start to see if it impacts their ability to recruit free agents. It hasn't kind of hampered them that much so far. As you mentioned, a guy like J.J. Watt was willing to come here because the price was right for him. We'll continue to ask that question. How about to our next insider who's going to join us? Our guy, Mike Garafolo, NFL Network's going to answer that question. That and, Myles Garrett, who we've been talking as well, coming up here on PHNX Cardinals.
Let's celebrate our friends at Sanderson Ford. They're out in Glendale. They're doing great things. PHNX is proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. In celebration, again, they've got a ton of new deals to kick off this new year. Save $4,800 on a Bronco Sport Badland. Save $10,000 on an F-150 STX and XLT truck. Save $10,000 off full-size Bronco Badland. Sanderson Ford, again, has 25 quality pre-owned vehicles to choose from price $25,000 or less. Shop no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense. See why Sanderson Ford is America's most awarded Ford dealership for complete customer satisfaction. Don't miss Sanderson Ford. Again, they've got these sales going on through, I believe, this weekend up until Monday. Again, offers on 2024 models include Ford rebate Sanderson discounts and Conquest cash and Flex Buy discounts. You got to qualify. See dealer for details. Check out more info in the show notes, folks. All offers, again, expire March 3rd, which is next Monday. So get out to Sanderson Ford. Tell them PHNX Cardinals sent you.
Damn, it's almost March.
I know.
Pure edibles. Way to celebrate. How about the month of March coming in, the sun shining in the Valley of the Sun? I think I saw it was our first 90-degree day.
Yeah.
And maybe crank up that AC for the first time. And
was it 90 here in Indy?
No, it certainly wasn't.
No,
but
it wasn't.
Crank up the AC and maybe pop a Pure Edible. Pure Edible is, of course, founded in Arizona. It's used to the heat. Available in 130 dispensaries statewide. Pure Edible is synonymous with our great state. The gummy's not covered in sugar like our competitors, not like a big old mocha latte. It doesn't have that much sugar on those things. And you can check the Pure is full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks like Starburst, chews like caramels, and hard candies. Pure Effects clearly listed on each tin, so you know exactly what you're getting, what effects to expect. You know what's in it. Unlike Johnny not knowing what's in a mocha, Check out Pure, created in Flagstaff but made its way down the I-17, is now in Phoenix. We love them being here. Check out Pure Gummies, designed to be ripped in half and made shareable and easy to dial into your exact dose. Go to find Pure Edibles products from the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona.
I don't know what you mean by that, but we'll continue on.
Cheated. That's what I mean.
You're
supposed to stay away from sugar. He didn't.
I'm pretty sure the results of the poll came back and said you should be in prison right now.
Well, I think that poll is juiced up. I already have it confirmed that Bo used the PHNX Cardinals account to like Damon's post and to vote me going to prison. So that the results of that poll are now irrelevant.
Well, it's a 30% difference.
Now, I think when you do something like that, it's all squashed.
So if you take one away,
now,
one vote away, what does that take it down to? About 29%?
Yeah, there's over 100.
How many of those accounts did Bo and Damon make? I think that's the questions people are asking.
I did vote with my personal and did say that I voted yes, you should be in prison.
You manipulated those votes.
Johnny should have been escorted out in cuffs today.
He should have.
At today in front of everybody.
I've lost.
What's most shameful? Dead last in the NFLPA grades or what Johnny did yesterday?
I mean, at least are the Cardinals lying about it?
They're not. They are truthful.
Yeah,
truthful.
No one's ever lied. I've never lied.
Yeah, we're actually not 32nd. We're actually 27th. You guys just don't get it.
It's a great point.
People are giving me F- in the chat. I'm going to be fired up about that. In the meantime, we're fired up to welcome Mike Garafolo, NFL Insider, on the Insider Show. We talked to Mike about free agency, the Cardinals' plan, Myles, Garrett, and more. Here's Mike.
PHNX Cardinals coverage from the NFL Combine continues with the NFL Insider, part of the Insiders, Mike Garafolo. Mike, we're just over there. Kevin Stefanski, Browns head coach, and he's saying he's committed to Myles Garrett. He's a part of the team now. He's going to be a part of the team in the future, despite Garrett's trade request. We cover the Cardinals. Do you see them as a potential fit if Garrett ever hit the market?
Yeah, well, I see the Cardinals as wanting to do a lot of things up front defensively, and that certainly would be I see 31 teams as a fit for Myles Garrett is the short answer for that one, and I know that there's a lot of interest and would be a lot of interest if he was made available, but he's not made available right now. And this is going to go on all spring. This is going to drag through minicamp. I don't expect to see him there, and this will be a will he show up for training camp type thing. I mean, that's my prediction at this point, and they have made it clear, the Browns have, that they don't plan on bending on this one at all. So, yeah, buckle up. I think this is we have a insider joke type thing. Like, which name do you think we're going to say the most this spring? And Myles Garrett's probably the name that we're going to say the most. Myles Garrett, there it is again.
You talk about doing heavy lifting up front for the Cardinals defensive line. You don't have to trade for these players. Do you think Jonathan Gannon, Monti Ossenfort will pursue a lot of Gannon's ex-players, whether it's Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Hassan Reddick, if you had to kind of tally it up?
Yeah, I think all three of those guys fit. The price on Reddick certainly has gone down over the last year. Last year didn't help him from the holdout standpoint and the production when he came back, so that's more of an affordable one. The other two probably not so much. I mean, the other two are going to cost a pretty penny. Milton Williams is going to make a ton of money. I saw somebody say that Howie Roseman, the rare mistake, I think it was our guy Greg Rosenthal, and I meant to grab him and say it was the rare mistake that he made by not extending him. You can't extend everybody.
Right.
There's only so much money to go around, and Milton Williams is going to happen to be the guy that is going to slip away. He's a terrific player. The thing I'll always remember about Milton Williams, and that was the first, check me on this, the first defensive guy drafted under Jonathan Gannon.
It was, yeah, good call.
Who he loved, I know that. And I remember in the draft room, the fist bump. Do you remember the fist bump?
Oh, yeah. The infamous one.
It was,
or non-fist bump.
Who was it? The old-time personnel executive who was working, Tom Donahoe? Is that who it was?
That sounds
and
right.
he went for the fist bump, or Howie went for the fist bump, and because he wanted Aleem McNeil.
Yeah.
And Aleem McNeil went, I think, 2 picks before, and they traded out, and the Lions took Aleem McNeil or in between or something like that. And both guys are going to wind up getting huge money, so couldn't go wrong either way. So both guys were right, I guess, on that.
Well, let's talk salary cap dollars, because it's year 3 of Monti Ossenfort the offseason, and it's been a different assignment, compared to most GMs. I mean, he had to tear it down in 2023.
Yeah.
Build it back up through draft capital, and now the team 8-9 knocking on the door of the postseason. They're in a position to really kind of make some noise. Do you think Monti Ossenfort is somebody that's willing to maybe open up the salary cap checkbook on somebody like Milton Williams that would command $18-20 million a year?
Yeah, they're going to have to make a big splash, and they're in an okay situation.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I say okay just because some teams are in amazing salary cap situations, and some teams are in terrible too. The Saints being one of those teams. So yeah, I think they understand where they are. Year 3. they weren't a playoff roster last year. I mean, there was a time where it was like, is this team going to make the playoffs? They weren't a playoff caliber roster, but they've drafted well, and they've got some young guys. They're going to have to pay Trey McBride at some point here. So they've got some young guys that are putting them in a position where they've got the cornerstone pieces in the right spot. Now you add the fillers. Now you add the guys that can help get you and elevate you. So I think you're going to see them be aggressive in certain areas, and certainly the guys that you mentioned are certainly part of it. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because there's in another we got so many inside jokes, and this is a really good one.
Well, a not so inside joke with our fan base is Kyler Murray trying to finish strong at the end of seasons. There's been inconsistency there, and then you've got GM Monti Ossenfort yesterday saying, hey, we're open to competition in all positions. When I asked about the quarterback room, could you see the Arizona Cardinals? I'm just throwing this analogy out there. Carson Wentz gets kind of Wally Pitt by Jalen Hurts as a second rounder once upon a time. They have that contingency plan in place. I know people don't love this quarterback class. Could you see the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, a player that wasn't drafted by Ossenfort, wasn't extended? Could they have a succession plan in place, or do you feel like Kyler Murray is their guy moving forward?
I think he is, and I know that they want to see better of him, but I don't get the sense that they're looking at him like, oh, we got to start figuring out where we're going after this one. But I think it's going to be a big year for him to have, it's any quarterback's up and down. I don't love the analogy, but there are times when the downs can be a little bit more extended, and if it's a portion of a game versus an entire half where he's not playing well, something like that, that's a little that I think that's what they're looking for, to just minimize the mistakes with him. I think that's probably the next step for him in their mind, and he knows that. I mean, it sounds like he is a very willing to accept coaching, or maybe more so than early in his career. And maybe that's unfair. Maybe he was early in his career, and we saw him from afar as a certain kind of guy. So I know that they're pleased with his desire to improve and to get better. I definitely have heard that, and he's got to do it this year. He's got to minimize those mistakes there.
Let's wrap with this. It's the news of the day here at the Combine. It's the NFLPA player grades.
Yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals finished dead last. And
I feel like that's the fourth team I heard finish dead last in overall.
32 out of 32. Now overall, things haven't
dug in yet. I got to go.
League-wide things have progressed, but somebody's got to finish last. The Cardinals are last. They announced that they're going to have a brand new training facility. Reportedly over $100 million. How big of an impact do those grades kind of go as far as free agency? Trying to lure in top performing players.
The money is. I covered Tom Coughlin in 2004 into his first year with the Giants into 05, and I remember writing a story about the players were telling me, like, we're worried about who's gonna come up to play here, seeing all this stuff from afar. Giants free agent class that offseason, and their facilities were terrible at the time too. Kareem McKenzie, who wound up being their cornerstone right tackle for their Super Bowl team, Plaxico Burress, Jay Feely, who was a kicker for them for a couple of years, Antonio Pierce, who was their defensive captain for the first Super Bowl. I'm probably missing another guy, but and I remember I had to then, put the knife in my own story and be like, this proved my story and others wrong, that free agents, because it's the money.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the money. It comes down. That's the biggest driver when it comes to free agency. If there's a tie, maybe in that regard. But listen, there are other teams. I mean, apparently the Jets didn't do well from an ownership standpoint. I saw even the Eagles, who do a lot of things extremely well, didn't do so well in some of the areas there. So I think I'll put it this. I love what the NFLPA is doing. It's holding teams accountable. I do know that, at least internally, when these things come out and the team does not do well, that they really make an effort to, let's address this stuff right here. So, you'll see these changes, which you mentioned are already in the process of being changed.
Mike, so generous with his time. Thank you so much, sir.
Great stuff from Mike Garafolo, their NFL Network. Of course, their coverage for the workouts begins tomorrow. Don't want to miss that with Garafolo, Rap Sheet, and Tom Pelissaro, and our guy Omar Ruiz. They're just locked in.
Kind of echoing Benjamin Albright's comments, although Albright think it could be a sales pitch for recruiting with Gannon and Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. I tend to side with the guy who's just on, Garafolo. I think Josh Sweat's going to go to the place that pays him the most money. And if there's a sweetener on top that he can be with his former head coach or his defensive coordinator, awesome. But, I mean, if the Cardinals want Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, they can be Cardinals. They can be Cardinals tomorrow. Not literally, but figuratively. You can make that happen, right? I think anybody sitting here and saying, these guys that are hitting free agency really for the first time, Milton Williams for the first time, Sweat bet on himself this year. Good for him. Stud in the Super Bowl. Like, those guys are going to be paid, right? They're going to be paid handsomely. So, it's great to hear that the Cardinals, from both sources now, are going to spin big. Like, because that's the question you and I and Damon with our vices, and I know that's tongue-in-cheek now for you both, but, like, that's what this was all about.
Damon and I.
That's what this was all about. It was about Monti Ossenfort cutting a fat check, maybe multiple. Go do that now, Monti Ossenfort. Go give this team an opportunity to compete in the NFC West up front defensively on a line of scrimmage that has been underserved for talent. They've overachieved, right? We're talking to somebody today. The Cardinals have overachieved defensively. Gift Nick Rallis what he's earned in high-end personnel, and you got to pay money for that. I mean, Albright said it best. You're paying A-plus money to B-plus players. But what have you said consistently when we've talked to people about Josh Sweat? He is incrementally better than anybody they got. That's not a shot at Gardeck and Lucetta and Dumakaji and Zaven Collins. But man, oh man, that the gap between those players and Josh Sweat at the end of the day is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, the money can be right. You have all the financial flexibility cap-wise to do what you'd like.
Yeah.
And then I think the next selling point is, your ability to win, the culture around the team itself and its head coach, living in Arizona also spruces it up. And then, like, once you get down to, like, these tiebreakers, then that's, I think, when that PA thing would pop into consideration.
I know.
But the money has to be right.
I like Tim saying, if someone paid me $10 million a year to live off of 27th and Van Buren, I would at least think about it.
It'd be a nice house on 27th and Van Buren. Probably be the house. It would be the best house in the neighborhood.
Isn't that frustrating, too? Because, like, I saw a lot of quote tweets on Twitter today, a couple from some external national media guys. It's like, Phoenix is the best. Take it for somebody. I'm from the Midwest. I love my Midwestern roots. I'm from Illinois originally. I grew up there. I love the people of the Midwest. I've never lived in a better place than Phoenix, the East Valley. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's debatable.
That it should
you be. You could be East Valley shill if you'd like, but
okay,
I hold it down
collectively.
Central
Arizona as a whole, it is unmatched, friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that should be a coup and a sales pitch. And maybe the Cardinals use that to a fault. Like, well, you get to live in Phoenix. The facility's not A+, but look, you can go Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, Camelback Mountain. You could 6 hours to California.
Benefits too.
Right, yeah, it's like, don't use that, Cardinals, because I'll tell you what, people love to live in LA with the Rams, and Seattle's a booming economic climate. We know what San Francisco brings to the table. We're not competing against Jacksonville right now. You're in the NFC West. You're recruiting against the best in the NFL. It's like, use that as a differentiator, but don't leave yourself open to criticism with your facilities. Make your facilities match what people believe about the Valley collectively. That's what my hope is. I'm spitballing now, but that's my hope.
That's beautiful. That was great. Thank you.
Have you guys look up Paradise Valley, where a lot of the players live?
Or in the East, there's a bunch in the East Valley because of where the facility is. I mean, there's guys out there in Ocotillo and out there, Gilbert.
Rafa's saying taxes as well. You brought that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unbelievable place. It's a privilege to live in Arizona.
That's right, Duff Guy.
It's a
Central
privilege.
Phoenix gang.
Like, come on, Cardinals. Meet us halfway here. We got some super chats, Damon Dawg, to run through.
Yeah, let's hit yesterday's first because we missed them yesterday. So apologies to all the folks that sent super chats yesterday that we didn't hit. But I will say they are a little bit nasty. So maybe we hold off on the apologies a little bit. First one, we're starting off. Hayden, he says that he hopes JV pronounced Monty's name correctly.
It's because I say Ossenfort and it's Ossenfort.
Okay,
but I think that's an inside joke between me.
Here, let me rep for my guy JV here for a second. Thanks, Shane. Johnny speaks Johnese. Yeah, it's his own language, and he adds vowels and he adds letters and he switches them up, and it's just you have to live with it and love it. Yeah.
Continue on, please. With
next
super chats.
Next one here from Dana. What's up, Shane? It says, guys, love you, but skip the obvious and dig into the process. Bucks Light got one and talked area scouting changes and depending on young scouts to update his process in the NIL social media age. She was unhappy with our questions for Monty yesterday.
Here's what I can tell you. They revamped the scouting process when Ossenfort got here, and Gannon, you heard Albright's an extension of as a former scout. I know this isn't probably the answer you want to hear. I would not worry about the Cardinal scouting process.
They didn't want to know about the pro scouting process.
Oh, okay, not the collegians counting process.
Was that
Okay,
in
got
the
it.
comments on the Monday's episode
Yeah,
that
it
we
was.
requested? Yeah. Dana wanted to know how they were going to optimize and streamline the pro scouting process.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it was a collegiate process. Next time we get in front of Ossenfort, which should be, I mean,
Draft
later.
time.
I would love to see Ossenfort with a marquee free agent signing. Like Keim used to do, is like bring him somebody up there. Maybe we can get a question in Dana, but that we will ask that. If next time we talk to JG, we might ask that as well.
But Dana hated your question.
Aaron Van Buren, $2 says chances for Cards trading a player to get more picks.
I mean, I think that ship has sailed. I think that ship was Budda Baker during the season, and the Cardinals turned their season around. And Budda Baker was a big part of that, and he got rewarded handsomely with an extension. I don't think
who would be the candidates, and this is not us, saying that this would actually happen.
I mean, the one that would bring you the most return is Kyler Murray, and you've made the argument, what are you doing as a replacement? I think Jalen Thompson, a lot of fans want to insert into trades. I don't know if anybody's giving you a pick for Jalen Thompson. That's not a knock on him. It's more so his cap number and the position he plays.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a lot of tradable assets because they don't have a lot of overpriced good players. That's what Ossenfort's taking care of now. Outside of last year's free agent class, which was not good, this franchise is built upon the Keim guys that have been put through the ringer, who have made it on the other side, Kyler Murray and et cetera, and young players on rookie deals. That's the Cardinals right now. I mean, you joke about it all the time. Teams here, oh man, what are we going to do with T. Higgins, and what are we going to do with Joey Bosa, and all these teams that are have tough cap situations to figure out.
Yeah,
the Cardinals are not that because they have not had good enough players to pay.
Yeah. What else we got?
Yeah, we're on to today's questions. Mac Daddy 714-499 says, with everything coming out of Ole Miss, should teams be worried about Jackson Dart?
Oh,
I believe it's in reference to him cheating on his girlfriend.
Well, I mean, Benjamin Albright saying Jackson Dart could be a first rounder to New Orleans potentially. So I think if Jackson Dart throws well this week, I think Jackson Dart could be a first round.
I think Mac Daddy's just having some fun.
Yeah, I mean, that won't impact anything. Charlie Sinclair, our friend, hops in to kind of pounce on us and make fun of us here.
Yeah.
Michael Bidwill can probably get back to 27 if he buys the whole team Lifetime Fitness memberships.
Chargers were 30th, weren't they?
I mean, the Chargers get to use a lot of the Rams and Stan Kroenke's setup, right? So I think, listen, if the Cardinals could use Stan Kroenke's setup, they would, I'm sure. But yeah, that's tough.
Josh's Spada with a new profile pic, and it's Bo with the I hate you over Cam Scatterville. No longer Johnny with the I hate you over Marv.
Wow.
That's a big development. New profile pic. We want Scatterville. Also, Bidwell has no shame.
It hurts me when Albright is not a fan of Cam Scatterville. And you see
Saul?
Yeah, I know Saul.
Hopping on too?
Saul thinks I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much. Maybe he's right. But between that and, I got Jack Sawyer at the podium this morning, and Bo's talking about a picture that's gone viral with Jack Sawyer.
Chargers are 5th. I was way off.
Jack Sawyer's lower body kind of not being great. Bo has it out for a lot of my draft favorites. And again, we're going to measure a lot this weekend, but here's one thing you can't measure is their heart size.
Damn right, Johnny. You tell him.
Could be an issue, too. I'd be concerned if somebody has too big large heart. It's a medical condition.
It's in the good way, in the Grinch way, when his heart gets big at the end. That's Cam Scatterbo. Keep going, Damon.
Be Stoic, $5. Players League, you got to have professional facilities. That's a player expectation.
I think it's at the collegiate level. I mean, you don't get good players. Players choose you. And the Cardinals have taken advantage of the fact that we're just drafting players, right? But here's the thing: is they've been able to get good free agents historically under Keim. Even before that, they've signed free agents of note. And so, again, I think Garafolo's point is it doesn't matter about the facility, but that's not a reason not to do it, though.
Yeah.
Just because you're paying guys big money is free. You should want to do it to help your people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not I get it, competitive advantage. It's not being taken out of the salary cap.
They spend so much time in the locker room, in the weight room, in the training rooms.
Yeah.
They have to be upgraded. If you want them to be at the facility, preparing, dialing in their process to win each and every week, you got to make it comfortable for them. You can't just be okay, well, you can be comfortable at home. No, this is your home away from home. This is your job. This is where you're going to spend 8 to 10 to 12, 14 hours a day.
Is it like, do you give any credence to like the people who are like, they shouldn't have bought the jet, they should have put that money toward the training
The NFL,
facility,
you should have enough to
do everything, yeah. And the people that are ripping on the casitas, like Bidwill was asked last week, was it a mistake to do that?
I'm curious, and I have to ask somebody, but like the casitas and then the new like field level seating.
Yeah.
I wonder if that played into family members not having the ability to get sideline passes because that took up a lot of space. But I have to figure that out.
Well, it sounds like that. I mean, that's one of the first things that they can remedy is getting people passes and making sure families are taken care of. Like that. That's really that's probably the undersell of this entire argument is like that's been like D plus F for 2 years. Like fix that. You can fix that tomorrow. That's just a want to do that for people.
That's an effort thing.
Right. Like the facility, I mean, you got to secure funding and you got to knock down walls. And I mean, like where they flubbed up with the facility upgrade is having a plan, putting it out there so that, to your point, even if this had come out, we've known about a plan for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. Like that's really disheartening to hear about. I mean, it's like an extension of like the workplace culture. I don't want to hear about people being mistreated by the Arizona Cardinals anymore. That's not a fun conversation to have.
Neoman 15499 says, anyone else just get the Yahoo Sports update saying the Arizona Cardinals are about to invest $100 million into the facility. Bidwill's working quick. So as we touched on earlier in the show.
Yeah, and that's something that's been in like a part of the like they've been in this process of updating this. And wanting to invest $100 million around that estimate, around $100 million in the facility. But like we're saying, I think if you were to kind of, allow your fan base to know that, they wouldn't feel blindsided when you finish last in the league as far as, your facilities and all those driving forces.
I mean, when was the last time you've heard about them upgrading the facility? Like renovations, not like.
I remember when they did this last year. I thought Tretter had said that the team told him that they were going to update the locker rooms, and then I guess and it's a process, right? But I think as an NFL team, you can expedite that a little bit. Can't you kind of throw some weight around and say, hey, like, we need this and we need this stat. We've got to have these guys in the facility this much time of the year. Like, let's get this so we can get into this and update our training facility, get it on par with the rest of the league, if not near the top of it, in a timely fashion.
Like we've heard from a player on the team that like they've been shown stuff, right? But there was no timeline for that. Like it really just feels like they had some stuff in mind and they kicked it around and they put it out there. Today feels like the first like timeline day, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like the first time they're just like, okay, it's gonna be done by this time? And I get it. Like it's hard to like put pen to paper and say like we're gonna invest $100 million. It's gonna be done by this date. And maybe they were cautious on that. But to your point, it's like this is the NFL, man. This is number one sporting event in the country. You're a multi-billion-dollar franchise. Like you ought to be able to say, oh, we're going to put a committee together. And this is just going to get done. I'm very like trepidatious with the whole fact that like there was like we had people in our Discord, PHNX Cardinals, like when's the last time anything's come out before the Cardinals made this announcement on facility upgrades? Right. And there was like articles from 2015 or something.
Yeah, that was the last time they did any work to it, really, any major work, and that was the weight room. It's like me procrastinating with something my wife would ask me to do, and then she follows up, and she's like, "Hey, did you do that thing?" And I'm like, and then I make a phone call. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on it." That's what today kind of felt like.
What do you feel like the Cardinals like really thought was going to come out? I know I can't put you in their shoes, but like,
yeah, it's just all speculation, right? But I feel like they were probably in the same spot you and I were yesterday when we were like, "Hey, the grades are going to be released tomorrow." And they were 27th this year. It was up from 31. We expect them. We're not expecting them. Like you were thinking they could top out at 20. We weren't expecting them to go backwards because of all the things that we've seen. Is like, and that's one of the parts that's kind of deflating about today. It's like we love what Ossenfort's doing as far as building this roster and Jonathan Gannon and how they've gotten their hands and have the autonomy to kind of do what they want.
Yeah.
But then for them to take a step back or for them to be hurdled as far as from the rest of the teams in the league, that's disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, it makes everything else we talk about not moot, but it just most teams just start with this stuff. Like, you don't even have to worry about it.
Right.
It's just taken care of. Damon, let's keep going.
Yeah, getting into Greg Hanlon's super chat here, $2 says Bidwill verbally abusing the staff post today's report.
Somebody was asking, it was in the chat here saying, Tommy asking the treatment of families, what is it exactly as far as it pertains to this report? The biggest sticking point with the families was the inability to get it sideline passes. Because I know when they did the first report 3 years ago, the families was one of the worst grades you could get. It was one of the
they didn't have a nursing station.
Yeah, they didn't have a family room at the
or not a nursing
at the
station,
stadium.
sorry, but a family room.
Yeah, they didn't have the family room they didn't have that at the stadium, and they remedied that. But then now this was a new issue that I think it was new to this season.
Josh, $5. Top tier show. How bad does it look for Mike Green right now with the allegations? Also, any other news on the other players the Cards have met with? Were you guys around for the Mike Green?
Yes.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think if there's any kind of sniff of that, and I hope things work out for Mike Green, and I hope that this all proves to not be true, but you want to believe victims, right? Here's what I'll say. I think it's safe to say, like, if any of this has weight to it, and the Cardinals will do their due diligence, so I'm just speculating, like, Mike Green won't be an Arizona Cardinal. Like, the Cardinals aren't going to mess with that. We saw that a couple years ago with Jalen Carter. Like, if there's any truth to this, and the Cardinals, I'm guessing, met with Mike Green. We don't know that. We were wrapped up in other stuff this morning. But it's hard to imagine, given where Gannon and Ossenfort put their values of players, like, they are not in a position to bring on a player like Mike Green should this have weight to it.
It's such a talented class, and it's so tight as far as the edge rushers, and we've been talking about this, trying to like differentiate like these guys from each other.
Yeah.
Like if they're all talent-wise the same, if you got a guy that's got multiple red flags, it's just so simple to just be like, all right, well, he's off our board.
It's not like last year, like, and the Cardinals didn't take a player with off the field concerns, but like Darius Robinson, like, they had to go and get Darius because the drop off afterward with some of the defensive line play was, I mean, Ossenfort even attested to it. This is the first real class where there's defensive line depth since he's been the GM. So I don't expect Mike Green to be an Arizona Cardinal.
I wasn't aware that he had an allegation against him in high school as well.
That just came out.
That was news
high school while he was at University of Virginia, and then he transferred to Marshall. So yeah, two allegations levied against Mike Green, the FBS sack leader out of Marshall.
I'm not skipping you free matter. I just think it's a good one to end on, so we'll keep that one in the back pocket here.
Can't wait to hear it.
Brian Pagatti, $5 says, Ben said New Orleans could trade back in the first round. You think the Cardinals would take future picks? Based on points, it would take 40, 71, 93, 110, and 29. Would Monti take? I would just like to say that the Saints, that would be a future first type of situation rather than their entire haul of draft picks.
I think Ossenfort would absolutely take a future first.
You say 40?
Yeah, that's their second round pick.
So not to knock out of the first round completely, I guess. So maybe I misspoke here, but
so you would be making, unless you trade back up, your first pick of the draft would be 40th overall. That's tough, especially when you're a team that feels like you're close.
You'd have to give up more than just first round pick. I don't know. I mean, I think it's realistic go from 16 to like mid to late 20s and get a couple extra picks. I think Ossenfort has shown his willingness to do that, and we'll see. Even Gannon himself kind of alluded to, is like, well, we're picking 16 right now. Could change, right? We know they were close to trading up last year with a couple defensive targets in mind. It didn't come to fruition. Yeah. So Ossenfort, every day two, he started day two by trading down.
Yeah.
So if he just expedites that,
100% of the time,
the real talent, it happens every time. The real talent in this class is like the depth of it from like 25 to 55. We've talked about it. So like if you can find yourself in a position to have, okay, let's say you go from 60, I'm just spitballing here, to like the late 20s, and then you've added additionally another second on top of that. So you've got, let's say, 27, 28, 47, and then like 60. Then you're really cooking. Yeah. Because then, and this is why it's important, Monti Ossenfort, to spend in 2 weeks. Those guys can come in and have a role, but not be Marvin Harrison Jr. carry the receiving core, right? Or 2 years ago, Paris Johnson Jr. was a stalwart. Those are outliers. Go and get JT like we saw this morning. I know you don't love Jack Sawyer. Get these guys that are fringe first rounders into day two, come in and learn and develop, but not be rushed into roles if they're not ready. Josh Sweat's ready to be an impact ass kicker for you. Milton Williams is. Go pay him.
Charlie Sinclair says he thinks that the Cardinals will draft Kenneth Grant.
We would love that.
I was talking, like I said, I was talking to somebody in the note today, and they were kind of curious if Grant and Walter Nolan, two guys that you and I both like for the Cardinals at 16, if they are a personality fit with Jonathan Gannon. What he likes, just the makeup of his player. Like I think you see the size, you see the tape, and those are things that Gannon and in this organization would like. But is he the type of player that Gannon likes? And the person I was talking to didn't seem to think so.
I was actually filming a stand-up for CHGO with Kenneth Grant, like very up close and personal, and I actually think Kenneth Grant seemed like a pretty energetic, like, dude that I think would fit into the Cardinals locker room.
I mean,
Walter Nolan, a little bit more reserved, laid back, and kind of different dude, but seemed like a good guy still.
I mean, like, you can have with Gannon, and here's where we got to be careful. You can have colorful guys now. Like 2 years ago, it was like with everything going on externally within the organization, all the arrests, and then the culture they wanted to lay, you were very careful, right? And it was like Colt McCoy and Joshua Dobbs, A+ human beings. You've had 2 years to build this, plus another free agent class in round. If you want to Darnell Dockett was a colorful guy, but he was an ass kicker. He's a great player, right? You can have those kind of players as long as there's nothing that comes with it off the field and they're coachable. I think Kenneth Grant, he's a national champion. He's recruited by Jim Harbaugh. He's an ass kicker. He's one of the best players in college football. I'd have no issue.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
335.
He said he played at 345 last year at Michigan.
It's a big boy.
See, I like this from Charlie Sinclair, $1.99. If Jim Harbaugh liked him, Jonathan Gannon will. I agree with that.
And our last one here, I just thought this was an interesting topic. Johnny brought it up to me actually before the show. Do you think that this 32nd grade, do you think it impacts free agency in any particular way? Because I think that it could swing either way, right? Like you look at the one hand, it could lead to, Bidwill maybe trying to up his purse that he's about to spend in free agency to get the attention off of him a little bit, or vice versa.
I do not think it will hurt them. I know that's a crazy statement.
Yeah.
I think you want to hope it doesn't impact their plan at all, but I also could see like people think they're a little reactionary today. Like, could they just go out and say like, get this done for Josh Sweat so we can celebrate a win? I don't think it will impact it negatively, though. I could be wrong. I could be sitting here with my egg on my face in 2 weeks, and they got nothing through 4 days of free agency, and it will suck for this show for more ways than one. But I hope not.
Sometimes when you're dragged in the court of public opinion, it inspires change. 360 plus days ago, a guy on this show was dragged in front of the court of public opinion, said, can't finish a steak. Who cuts their steak up in little baby bites like that? You call yourself a man?
Oh, what is this? I don't like this.
I remember.
Are you on a script?
One. And then it inspired this man to want better, not just for himself, but for everybody that supports him, and lost respect for him.
Respect was lost. That's harsh. Come on now.
And is now on a redemption tour, and now it begs the question, like, now, like, everything that he set up into this point, like, can he back it up? And we're going to find out in a few short hours.
Who are we talking about? Ossenfort?
Oh, we're talking about Johnny now. Yeah, we're talking about Johnny.
Here's what I will say. We're going to St. Elmo's Steakhouse just a couple hours. I will finish my steak. And when I do, I'm sure I'm not going to hear a damn thing from my co-host to my left. Here's what I will say, though. My peers want me to eat a 14-ounce steak. I don't know if that's realistic for your boy. I think anything in double digits is fair money, house money. 14-ounce steak. Like, how many grown adults can do that? I don't think too many. That's a big steak. 14 ounces, if anything, is a lot.
Here's where I'll give you grace on that. Well, you ordered a 14-ounce steak last year, so I think that was just where people were like, okay, he's just gonna make he's just gonna do the same order.
But my argument was always like, I finished over half. Like, give me some credit here. And it was always like, he didn't finish it, and he cut it out. It's 14 ounces.
Like, I think we can be the judges of, and then of course we'll get the pictures as evidence, and you can't mess with it like you're Tom Brady smashing cell phones.
This dinner, nice and relaxing.
You need to, I'm not a guy that loves gristle. I'm not a big proponent of like fat. adds taste and all that. And if there's too much fat, like I'll allow you to just put that on the side.
You'll take a magnifying glass.
But if you eat, the bulk of your steak,
all right, let's get on the
I'll give you
record
your
right
blessing.
now. How big of a steak do I need to eat?
We talked about this yesterday, Johnny. So last year, Johnny, you got the ribeye. I think it's got to be a 12 ounce or a 14 ounce. I forget which one it was, but whatever the St. Elmo ribeye was. No, it was me and him both got the ribeye.
I did not get the porterhouse. If the ribeye is what I got last year,
it's big.
How big is it? See, I told you it was big.
It was 14 ounces, which I thought was a bit. Your eyes were a little bit bigger than your stomach.
But then here's the narrative that they'll never admit on this show. They're saying it's huge now, but for the last year, they've been like, to anybody who will listen, Johnny can't finish steaks.
Right.
And then they never give context to the circumstances.
Did you get this?
Because they're not good friends.
Strip? Did
I
you
don't
get
know
this
what I got.
14 ounce?
I don't remember.
Or did you get the flat iron?
I've blocked out so
I
much
want you
of
to
it. I'll do the flat iron.
You're going to do the 12 ounce flat iron. It's a naturally lean piece of meat, and it's exclusively grass fed. That's great.
Is that going to be good enough for everybody? Is that going to appease everybody here? I don't want any asterisks
Is that
on
going to
this.
be a good steak? Is the flat iron steak going to be good?
Well, I mean, you ate the filet last year. It was 8 ounces, and again, I know you can put away food, but like you would scold me if I tried to order the filet tonight.
Okay, I'll get the 12 ounce filet. You could get the 12 ounce filet. It's a little pricey.
It is expensive. I don't know if it would be approved by leadership here. I think the flat iron, 12 ounces.
I think leadership would approve anything involved in your battle tonight.
This New York strip, there's no way I got that. I got
But
the
you
ribeye
did.
last year.
It was the ribeye.
I got the ribeye.
Because
Damon and
specifically, I got the ribeye. I know for a fact I got the ribeye. And Bo, you were comparing how I finished mine and Johnny didn't finish his.
All right. I'm getting the ribeye again. No grass-fed BS here. I'm not getting something that's as lean as a piece of paper. I'm running it back. I'm doing the ribeye at St. Elmo's in just a couple of hours, and I'm finishing the steak. And if you want to follow along, you got to become a diehard. Just $48. Join our member Discord. Tim saying we will forgive Mocha Gate $1.99 if JV finishes the steak.
I appreciate the super chat.
That's so gross. That's so gross. Bo just loves having one thing after another over me. You never hear about the 999 challenge that I finished. Well, my over-under was 3.5. I'm going to eat this Mo-effing steak tonight, and y'all never hear about it again.
Yeah.
It'll be a footnote tomorrow, and then it'll be all about Mocha Gate. And that's at some point, enough's enough. When you take enough abuse from your co-host and your producer, we grind our asses off here at the Combine, and can a man just enjoy a meal,
That's what I want you to do tonight.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that. We will see about that. We'll see everybody here in the chat. Drop a like on this video. A nice, tidy 106-minute show today. Big thanks to everybody joining the show. JC Tretter, of course, a couple of NFL insiders, Albert Breer, and, of course, Mike Garafolo. Not Albert Breer, Benjamin Albright. Got too many insiders on the brain.
You're looking at Albert Breer right there.
I am, so I apologize. He's probably like, what are you talking about? I enjoyed your show. That's fine, but we're excited about the rest of this week. We didn't even get into the prospects today.
Yeah.
We had a chance.
Big prospect day tomorrow.
We talked to Jack Sawyer. We talked to a ton of prospects, Walter Nolan, and we got full breakdowns. Plus, on-field workouts begin at the Combine tomorrow. And what will the NFL landscape bring? Will we get a trade? There's been a number of players rumored to be traded. Could that happen? We're going to be the first to tell you, Bo.
Can't wait for it. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. And, of course, wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a 5-star rating and leave a review. It does wonders for us. And thanks for coming along with us on this trip to Indianapolis. The fun continues tonight. The exclusive member Discord, the way to get access to that. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. We're running a great rate right now, $48 for the entire year. And you get full access to our entire website and so many more perks. Don't miss out on it. Go PHNX.com. You get a hat? You get a shirt? Whatever you want.
Killer Dre, $9.99 super chat. Put some respect on Johnny V's name. Thank you, sir. I will do this for you. Shut your mouth, Damon. Like and subscribe. We're back on a Thursday. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.